When the pandemic struck, the growth of streaming services was an all-time high. Streaming service subscriptions managed to reach 1 billion worldwide across all platforms. This was a great milestone for the industry, but it seemed to mark the end of another. Global box office sales in theaters dropped by 72%, and film studios started moving their films directly to streaming. In Disney Plus's case, big films like Mulan, Black Widow, and Cruella were moved to streaming. HBO Max also joined that trend with blockbusters such as Godzilla vs. Kong and The Conjuring 3. Funny story about The Conjuring 3, it was actually my first horror film. I watched it when I was 14 or 15 I think, and 20 minutes into the film I decided I was not built for that, and I told my friends there was a family emergency and I had to leave. But moving on, we can see the problems set out for cinemas. They just don't have the appeal people used to have for them. And with the replacement of streaming services, they lost their magic. Until something came. Someone came. An event film is a blockbuster film whose release is an event in pop culture. People say it originated from films like Jurassic Park and Jaws, but we can all agree it's been popularized by superhero films through the popularity of the MCU. It's peaked at Infinity War and Endgame, and after COVID, there was a gap for those films until Spider-Man No Way Home arrived. I remember when Spider-Man No Way Home came out, I was 14, and me and my friends went to watch it because we wanted to be the first people to watch it. We had fun, we cracked jokes along the way, and I remember when Aunt May died, I was cracking jokes during the film, but my friend was about to cry, and he was a bit annoyed at me. But I remember looking back now, this was what films were all about. Event films came back because of this film, and also because of apps like TikTok. During the pandemic, they had a big boom in popularity, and they gave us a new way of talking about these films. 30-second skits or dances just based on talking about films came the way. This carried over for films like Sinners, which everyone was talking about, probably because of Michael B. Jordan. Man, that guy's beautiful. But then the ensemble force of the MCU replaced it with Thunderbolts, which is out now. But it's easy to say that event films are back, thanks to franchises, social media, but a new element that boosts popularity now. Memes, or specifically internet culture. Morbius was the Prometheus of films, not the actual Prometheus film. Prometheus in Greek mythology was a titan who created humans in the image of Greek gods. Angered by this, the gods made them subservient to them, but Prometheus wanted them to have the ability of creation and evolution, so he gave them the gift of fire. For that, he was punished by Zeus and chained to a mountain for all of eternity, infinitely getting his liver eaten out by a vulture. So it's just like sitting through a 9 AM lecture after an all-nighter of Fortnite Zero build. How does Morbius relate to this? Morbius showed everyone the power the internet has on cinema, and it paid deeply for that. November 22nd, 2021. Twitter user Tales to Unrage asked this question.
You ever think Morbius tried to get things like morbing around, time to morb going, and Spider-Man just stared him down?
It's Morbin time. Historians say this was the first sighting of Morbin time, before the film even came out. Now you know that guy was a real loser, because how do you know Morbius from the comics? How do you do that? Well, then it was just a calm before the storm, because the Morbius memes returned a year later for the release of Morbius.
Best part of Morbius was when he said,
It's Morbin time.
"Morb all over these guys."
And with the Morbin time meme, we also got Morbius Sweep. Fans would express their love for Morbius by comparing it to movies that came out at the time. I'm sorry Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but Morbius is getting more billion tickets and there's just not enough people to go watch your film. And you could tell it was really popular and successful. Let's just look at the numbers. Oh, so it was all fake? All these memes? Everyone was just lying on the internet? Who would believe that? They went to the point people would even make fake cinema reactions to the infamous Matt Smith scene. It was all fake, and to be honest, everyone could see that. Everyone except Sony for some reason. Sony saw all the Morbius meme, and they actually believed it and re-released it in 1,000 cinemas, and it went how you think it would. £300,000 only on the opening weekend, so they pulled out after that one weekend. Morbius was just a bad film. It was poorly inspired by Sony trying to make their own IP without using the MCU and trying to make their own franchise. I can understand trying to be original and forming new stories without the same old Spider-Man fights a bad guy again. Morbius isn't even that popular. He's not even a B-list villain. If you want something new to work, try Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Kraven the Hunter. Oh, they already tried it. How was it? Well, I think Sony should just make their money and sell everything to Disney because they learnt from their Prometheus Morbius. They can't make sensible decisions. From the meme Prometheus to the American Prometheus, the next big cultural phenomenon was building up. 2 movies, same day. The critically renowned director Christopher Nolan was making a movie on the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer and his work on the Manhattan Project, which was the creation of the atom bomb. On the other side of the ring, we had Greta Gerwig, who was on a high of her recently successful films Lady Bird and Little Women. She was now directing her 4th film, Barbie, based on the successful doll franchise. June 21st, 2023. There was some speculation that Warner Bros. Chose to screen their film at the same time as Oppenheimer to get revenge on Nolan for ending his collaboration with them. This collaboration actually ended because Warner Bros. Were going to release all their 2021 films on the streaming services, and although they pulled out of that idea, it did sully their relationship to the point Nolan worked with rival studios on Oppenheimer. It is a bit poetic how Warner Bros. Working on the death of theatres was the butterfly effect on probably the biggest event in theatres of the last decade. While news outlets were trying to force a rivalry on who is going to make the most money and which one people will go to instead of the other, the general public just thought, why not go to both? Most cinemas had consistent timings where you could watch one film and then the next one immediately after. So months before the fated day, people were already preparing. From ordinary people to celebrities, they were using the coin term Barbenheimer made by Twitter users. Fan art was being made, t-shirts were being worn, people were discussing online which order they were going for. Barbie first meant that they were going in all energetic and happy. But Oppenheimer first meant they were going to leave the cinema happy by being cheered up by Barbie at the end. Then Barbenheimer happened. Everyone came in, dressed up in pink and black and white. Polarity of the films made it even better. It fixed sexism. Incels learnt feminism from Barbie, and women learned the madness a man would go to after being rejected by Florence Pugh. Okay, maybe I'm getting a bit carried away, but it brought people together, which marked why it was such a great cultural phenomenon. Everyone loved it. Except maybe the Japanese viewers who found Oppenheimer offensive to the victims of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So in response, they acted rationally, and they made a bunch of 9/11 jokes collabed with Barbie. But overall, it was a great success, and it was mainly down to Oppenheimer and Barbie being great films. I haven't watched Barbie yet, but it was hailed as a great film that has positive messages for young girls. But it's also a great film for all demographics. And the best thing is, the studios didn't even go overboard with the memes. This was mainly because it was 2 separate entities involved, so they couldn't do much about it. But it was mainly work done by the public. And I like that. It's a great example of how we are in control of the popularity of the films. There were other smaller examples of internet culture influencing cinema experiences. Cocaine Bear was a movie that was influenced by a story of a bear ingesting 34 kilograms of cocaine. Saw Patrol was a lame attempt at trying to replicate Barbenheimer, which was a mashup of Paw Patrol and Saw X coming out at the same time. However, viewers just found it forced because Paramount was trying to force it at the start, and so it didn't catch on. Minions Rise of Gru was probably the most popular one out of these examples. It started out with people going to watch Minions in suits and calling themselves Gentle Minions. And it was also carried by Yeet working on the film actually for one of the themes. So it was just videos of people on TikTok walking in to cinemas asking for tickets for the Minion movie while Yeet just plays over. It started out well, but then people would take it too far in the cinema and it got ended quickly. All of these just didn't carry the gravitas that Barbenheimer and Morbius carried. It didn't carry that impact that they did, and it seemed that nothing would carry that impact until the Minecraft movie came. The Minecraft movie was announced around 2019, and was meant to come out 2022, but COVID changed their plans and it came out this year a month ago. Before the trailer, the cast release was the beginning of all the jokes. Jack Black, being the famous Steve, was the cause for a bunch of clickbait Photoshop and a bunch of Twitter reactions, especially with his song
I'm placing blocks and shit cause I'm in the fucking Minecraft
being a really popular one. Then the trailer came out and it was the goldmine of the memes.
Flint and steel. The nether. Chicken jockey.
Then eventually the movie came out and nothing could prepare the workers for what came.
If I hear any of you yelling chicken jockey in this theater, I will be calling the authorities. Not for you, but for
You guessed it. It opened a portal to another world. The overworld.
At the calmest, it was just an applause at every big meme such as Flint and Steel and Chicken Jockey. And at the worst, there was popcorn being thrown, food being thrown, and eruptions out in the entire theater. There's a video of a couple guys taking a live chicken to the theater and setting it out in the chicken jockey scene. At some point, people had to realize they were taking it a bit too far, because it was great to watch these videos, but eventually the workers came out and they were talking about how it was so daunting having to clean up after them. And I watched the Minecraft movie twice. First time I came out with my brothers on the second day and it was hectic. Food is being thrown at them and my brother would turn around to check and I was like, yo, don't try to saw anything. These guys are high schoolers, bro. They're gonna kill you. Couldn't even hear the ending because during the ending scene, after Steve says, let's mine, let's craft, let's Minecraft, it was eruption every single time, clapping every single time. It was like a football game. Second time I watched it in London with my friend in Camden, and this was like 2 weeks after the film came out. It was quiet. Yes, in the let's Minecraft and chicken jockey scene, there was still applauses, but it was the quietest I've seen it. And I can't lie, I've realised how bad the film was. There were unnecessary pauses, strange deus ex machinas, and the characters other than Steve and Jason Momoa weren't even that interesting. Emma Myers though, she was the star of the film. But it made me realise how the audience just carried the atmosphere of the film. And it was a bit of a positive to the way they did this, but of course, eventually, the chicken jockey scene just became so crazy. But to be fair though, the Minecraft movie was going to be a meme from the beginning. It was built on a community that was grown on memes. Now that we are all grown up, everyone just wanted to have some fun, and some people did take it too far, but I think it was an enjoying experience, and it did show how much people can affect cinemas in person this time. Internet culture and films are now intertwined. Before we were surprised when YouTubers would be mentioned as a reference, but now we're getting cameos or they're involved in production. Part of me does like it, but I do like a barrier between them. The internet can be a toxic or just plain stupid place. That's why Barbenheimer was good. It didn't pander because it didn't know the memes, but after it knew the memes, it just carried the same controlled measure of advertising. The Minecraft movie was just slop upon slop referencing to everything, and to be fair, the demographic were the type of people who would cause these riots. But in the end, I think we'll peak there. Memes die out quickly, and so even if cinemas make their own, eventually the trend of carrying the internet to theatres will die out. But we should appreciate what the internet has done to theatres. It's now fun to go watch and discuss these movies afterwards. And yeah, there are problems now, but it does bring people more together.
Whoa, is he some kind of king?
No. That's a legend.
Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. It's been a while since my last videos, but uni's been getting in the way, but now it's almost done. And I've got a couple more videos in mind, and I think this video will help motivate me for the next ones.